Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for another Ota Zone, and I'm here with, I guess, gonna be a regular on this show now. Nick. Say hi, Nick.
Hello. Glad to
All
be
right.
here again.
Yeah. Yep. And today we're gonna be talking about the anime community and like just our feelings on it in general, especially considering some of the more wackier shit that's been going on recently and whatnot. And just overall my disinterest in watching some anime YouTubers as well. So yeah, I guess we'll start now.
Yep. And what is there? There's always news. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always news like in the anime community, like the whole today going on Twitter, seeing the whole beef sort of kind of thing with like for Neverworld and Yonko Productions over something. I'm not sure why. I guess
Yeah.
the
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
whole if anything, the only thing about that really stands out to me is just like the meta of things for the anime community, or rather, this the whole deal with. I sometimes feel like we're back in fucking high school because there's always some little beef or people can't just get along, or
Yeah.
there's talking behind one person's backs. Like that's one of the things I remember hearing like forever ago over along the lines on this one video. I forget who made it, but that person said something that is like that has stuck with me, and I think it's so fucking true even today. And it's that the anime community, especially AniTube, people have like a way of forming little cliques that is almost like this extremely different from like a lot of other communities, because normally in normal communities, right, you see like everybody kind of just is together in this one big gigantic group where everybody's like, yeah, I know this person, and they all kind of just work together and do whatever. There really isn't a lot of negativity against one another. Like people, like they're all like they're all in one little group as far as like the YouTube spear goes. In the anime community, you have fucking factions, man. It's like it's like fucking Sengoku rants, or like civilization, or fucking or like it's like guilds in World of Warcraft or some shit, where everybody just kind of factions off into little groups. Like you have like the analysis guys, which even then that's kind of a stretch because some of those guys hate each other too.
Yeah.
And you have more of the Annie vlogger types, like the Anime Man, Chibi reviews, people like that, and they're kind of like their own thing. And and then you have like the miscellaneous sort of the smaller guys, like the city states, if you play Civ, like the guys who are just not really aligned with anybody else, but like kind of comment on everything, which I guess I would be a part of that little group.
Yeah. And then you have people who I'd say would just kind of do straight reviews. Like it's not so much analysis as they like kind of like actually do sort of like a typical movie review that you'd expect that follows in line with it. Like how's the story, how's the
Yeah,
characters, and then you
yeah,
kind of grade it based off of that.
yeah,
Which used
yeah.
to be probably, I would say, one of at least a couple of years ago, it was a lot bigger than it is. But I feel like it's
Oh,
kind of petered
definitely.
out these days.
Yeah, the traditional reviewers like Arcada,
Yeah,
like
like that's the biggest person I can think of that still does that.
yeah, like it really is. It really has kind of gone to the fucking wayside. I remember watching stuff like Podtaku with like a bunch of people who like did that back in the day. And yeah, like I remember the first time in my very very first channel, which does not exist anymore. I tried kind of imitating that style, and it just didn't work for me.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, yep,
I
that's
wonder.
kind of
I think it's interesting because I feel like that kind of separation of how people approach anime and talk about it and the different little groups that form, that kind of just reminds me of how when you think about anime in general, there's just so much to the genre and so many different subgenres that I guess it's
Yep.
kind of, which isn't as prominent in a lot of other sources of media, because even though everything's considered anime in this genre, there's still clearly anime for kids. There's ones that are more psychological. There's ones that are for like
Yep.
young teenagers. There's romance. There's comedy. There's like all sorts of genres, and they're all in the same overarching genre. So I guess it makes sense for why it's kind of diverse. Um,
Yep.
but I just think
Absolutely.
that's interesting, especially when you compare it back to how anime used to be, and how
Mhm.
like when I would watch older people that are in the anime community talk about their past experiences, they would just be excited to meet anybody who liked anime. Like they didn't care whatever
Yeah.
that you watched. It's just like, dude, you watch anime? So crap, no
Yeah.
one does.
Yeah.
But now
That.
it's just
Yeah.
like you talk to people and you immediately ask like what genre you like, and that's what kind of dictates stuff.
Yeah. It's it definitely has kind of exploded, and because of that, now there's a lot of separation based on like the type of fan you are, which it's kind of weird when like most mediums, or rather most specific mediums that are like similar to this, don't really have that level or that degree of factionalization.
Yeah.
And the thing that I find fascinating but can also be kind of annoying is like when these two groups kind of clash, because it's almost kind of like watching it's like watching different denominations within a religion clash, like Protestants versus Catholics, because
Yeah.
you think they both get along because they worship the same God, but because their disagreements stem from the fact that they disagree on how they should worship. That is why they're at each other's throats. So from an outsider's perspective, you think everybody would be like happy and whatever, but that's not the
Hmm.
case. And from what I've noticed, um like the more analysis side of anime YouTube is super, it's super, I what, fuck it, I'll just lay the smack down right here. They're so
Just be
fucking
honest.
like they're so fucking pretentious at times, and like a little bit egotistical. Like it I appreciate what they do for anime YouTube and the anime community, but at the
Hmm.
same time, the way they interact with other anime fans can be really, really off-putting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to like other people and just other people in the community. One of the most interesting things an anime analyst has said would be like, I don't know if you've heard of him. You probably have, but it would be fucking man. I'm at a fucking loss right now for his name. I'm like, yo, fucking, it was just on my fucking tongue. Uh, whatever. I'll just say what he
It
said.
might come back to you in a minute.
Yeah, it might come back to me in a minute, but basically what he was like going on a video on explaining like why anime elitists kind are the way they are, and how they see things and why they like argue about anime the way they argue, right? And just a general disconnect between, more casual fan and an anime elitist. And he said the whole reason why elitists are the way they are is because the culture of the elitist is to argue about shit. It's to fucking, oh, it's to, you like this show? Well, I don't. I think it's trash, right? And now it's like, oh, let's fucking argue, right? Or it's now like a little death match between my reason for liking this thing versus your reason for disliking this thing, and whoever can make the best argument like wins, right? but this is
Yeah.
not really
That's kind of
said.
like classical like debate style.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's like a debate, but you don't know you're in a debate
yeah.
because like this is often never said. It just comes off as like the elitist, like, trash talking your shit when the expectation is you're supposed to kind of defend yourself, right? But
Mhm.
if you're not an elitist, you don't really expect that, especially if you don't run in a lot of elitist circles. So you're just like, oh, now this person is fucking talking shit about this thing I like and about my tastes. And it's like, oh, you feel like you've been personally attacked, right? And this is like really insightful because obviously if you're not in these communities, it's gonna appear extremely fucking distasteful to you. Because people, one of the interesting things about human psychology is that people don't like being fucking argued with. Like
Mhm.
when they have something to say about something or they feel a certain way, they like people who are open minded, they can accept other people's opinions, but like people absolutely loathe being told that their feelings are invalid because of XYZ reasons, right?
Yeah.
So naturally, if you're not expecting somebody to react that way, it's going to be very off-putting to you.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
kind of like how if you like something and you're very passionate about it and you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, I really like this. And then you immediately see somebody speak negatively on it. You kind of start questioning what you like on it and you
yeah,
think about it. And then sometimes for a lot
yep,
of people, their initial reaction is just completely deny it and push it away because you don't want to really like let those thoughts muddle what you had or what your interest is or anything like that. So
yep,
it goes back to like, and yeah, that's the difference between like a classical debate that's always been around between like philosophers or anything like that is like they're ready for it and they're prepared for that discussion compared to people who just want to casually watch something and just kind of take it in for what it
yep,
is and get what they want, and then somebody coming down and telling them that they have to think this certain way. So it
yep,
kind of revolves around those ideologies and ways to go at it.
absolutely. Um, Overall, like I think this group, I think they do have a lot to add. They've added a lot to like anime, to the anime community and anime YouTube and whatever, right? They've added their own little spark by getting people to kind of think more deeply on anime in general.
Yeah, at least
Uh,
for the like common audience in the internet base, because one of the things I find interesting is the one anime class I'm actually taking in college right now is
yeah,
they show a lot of papers and documents and like older discussions that have been on anime for a long time now, and I didn't even know they existed. So they've always kind of been there, but I think what the analysis YouTubers especially have done is they've brought it to the forefront of pop, like the main community, and they kind of give a lot of people the idea that anime isn't just like a typical animation. It's not just cartoons or anything like that. It actually, there is deeper thought that goes into lots of shows, and there are things to look at, criticize,
yeah,
or compare to other things, or show stuff about what studios or creators are trying to say. And you give credit for that, but in my opinion, I think where it's kind of gone downhill is it's like it's gone from being this like, oh yeah, like that's cool, like I agree, and then you kind of give your own interpretation to like, I'm just gonna kind of spew what I feel because I feel entitled because I'm like very knowledgeable in this, and nobody can really like argue against me, or if you do, I'm just gonna list 50 points as to why you're wrong. Or it kind of comes off as like in some cases people just want to do it for the popularity's sake, like they feel like because they're so popular, because so many people like them, that they have superiority. Even if it doesn't come up, even like if they don't outright say it, you kind of still get that feeling, which is very
I understand.
off. And so I'm not gonna really out like say like anybody in particular is obviously doing this, because it really comes down to like perception. um but that's how I see it, and that's why I have kind of like, for me personally, and I think this is the same for you, is I've kind of gone away from a lot of the anime YouTubers because they have that mindset. I feel like in the back of their heads, or because they're so big that they get kind of like this credit for everything that's kind of being like popularized in that like area. Um,
I
so
understand what you're saying. It's like it's kind of yeah, it's kind of gotten a little out of control in the sense that everybody in that sphere almost kind of like some of them especially, not all of them.
no,
I
I'm
won't
not gonna
name
say
but
every single person
yeah.
that is like analytical or talks about has videos and like kind of ways that do that. They're not everybody's like that, but like
Yeah.
a lot of like big heads, like the big name ones that I don't really even just say, and I think most people will like think who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what like it really comes from.
Yeah, like the big shot syndrome has really come down on come down on them. And like probably the most annoying thing about the analyst community to me is that everything has to be these like highly detailed edited long form videos
Mm-hmm.
containing like lots of information. And to
And then if you
me,
don't do that, your quality isn't like up to snuff or like
yeah, like
should be treated as such. And that,
yeah, like like people have this like this entirely, oh, like it has to be this way, like everything has to be this fucking this one particular way, everything has to be an analysis video. That's one of the
mm-hmm.
reasons why they really like shitting on the any vloggers, which is why I like calling them, because that's kind of what they are. They have like these talking head videos, but
Yeah.
they talk about anime. Yeah, let me transition into talking about them. And yeah, like the anime vloggers, their whole thing is like they get shit on a lot, especially by the aforementioned anime analysis. But I also appreciate what they do, and I also see the charm in what they do, because like people will fucking shit on them, especially like chibi reviews for
Mm-hmm.
some reason, right? They love fucking shitting on that guy in particular.
That's
But I
interesting because
know
I don't know if I've really seen much of that. But I don't think I watch a lot of any. Well, I don't really watch
yeah
any like any YouTubers in any regard, so that's why
yeah
it's kind of hard
yeah
for me. But yeah, keep going.
yeah like effectively, like their whole shtick is basically, talking in front of a camera and being more sociable and just kind of sharing their own experience with, anime or whatever, right? But
Yeah,
in less of an analytical way and more in a,
just
oh,
kind of talking discussion
yeah,
based.
yeah,
Okay.
like, yeah, it's like, oh, I'm a guy sitting here just talking to you about XYZ, sort of, kind of, but like it's kind of like the middle ground in between being a vlogger and being like an anime YouTuber, where the
Yeah.
charm of being a vlogger is like getting to know this person from inside the screen, and the charm of being an anime fan, like it's an anime fan just like you, so it's kind of like, oh, you're getting to know this person's through their taste, and it's like, oh, that's this guy I know, and his whole thing and all the things he likes, and he's talking to me and yada yada yada. I know how
Yeah.
incoherent this sounds, but it's hard to explain.
No, no, no. I actually, I think I kind of a lie because now that I like really think about it, as I didn't really consider it, but now that you mention it, I do agree and I kind of see it. But I don't watch him much these days, but I did used to watch the Anime Man a lot. So, and his
Yeah,
style is like that. So, yeah, now I know what you're talking about. I was just kind
yeah,
of like, wait a minute, what do you mean? Like, yeah, but now I get it. So,
yeah, yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's the whole style they have, and that's what they're trying to achieve.
yeah,
that's something I feel like a lot of fucking uh, anime analysis, for some reason I'm so harsh on them. But yeah, like a
Well,
lot of them,
they're harsh on the stuff they like. So I mean, it's hard love, right?
it's hard love, yeah. Um Basically, like they like shitting on them because they don't really understand the appeal of them. But if you really, study and watch them, you'll understand, like, yeah, this is the type of thing their fans are looking for from them, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it's this guy I love watching. It's like that whole like Casey Neistat thing where it's like the narrative of this person. Like, one of the more recent videos I remember watching from Chibi, though I don't always watch his content. I only occasionally pop in to see, like, okay, what's he doing here? But one
Yeah.
of it was basically him just talking about, oh, I got a girlfriend, right? And his girlfriend was in his video and whatever, right? And there are a lot of people who are like, oh, this is cringy, blah blah blah. And it's like, oh, clearly you guys don't get it, right? Because a big part of his narrative as a creator, because I remember, seeing some of his videos talking about this, was like his whole feeling of, oh, I may never get a girlfriend, and all that stuff, right? Was
Hmm.
just, the whole aspect of being like sexually lonely, right? So the fact that he got a girlfriend, that is a big part of his narrative as a YouTube creator, because
Hmm.
it's like, oh, he finally fulfilled this thing that, he never thought he would be able to do. You get it? And that's why it's important that he, like, I'm sure he never really calculated it like this, but this is the effect it has, right?
Yeah.
That it's
When
like,
you make,
yeah,
well, I mean, I say that like, especially if you call it Annie Vlog, it's like a vlog channel. You know,
yeah,
it's somebody who's
exactly.
just kind of making videos about their everyday lives, and then they talk everything about what happens in their everyday lives. It's just in the cases of those videos, they tend to be more anime focused. And I would say
Exactly.
it also is different because unlike a typical vlogger who will usually vlog within set schedule times, I feel like a lot of anime vloggers just kind of put anything up that they just, like because all of a sudden it happened, they want to talk about it, as
Yeah,
opposed to like, I'm doing this day by day or I'm doing this weekly or monthly. It's just kind of like, I'm going to do this because I feel this way and I want to
yeah,
talk about it or whatever.
it's either that, or it's something that's like, it's popular, or like
Yeah, and
it's
I
what
want to
is
kind of,
in the season,
yeah.
which is something you see a lot. That's probably like
Which
my
is funny because I feel like both analytical and anti vloggers do that. Is they talk
Yeah,
about
they
something that's
both do
popular.
that.
That's
And
something they both share. Is they want to talk about something that's
yeah,
like popular or controversial and give their own sense in there. And that's
yeah,
probably what like in some regards does make that kind of clash. Is it's like the anti vlogger wants to put their personal taste in, the analytical does too, but they try to do it analytically. So, well, at least they make that feel like that's the forefront, even though their kind of personal bias is
yeah, there's a
there.
lot of personal bias. But yeah,
So,
like,
yeah.
yeah. That aspect of it, I don't blame anybody for that, for like tackling like what's popular, because that's just
Yeah.
that's just fucking YouTube and how its algorithm is set up, and what'll actually get you fucking views on this website is like
Yeah.
doing what is, current. It's rarer that I come across something that I both like and want to talk about, and that is, new. That's why I like kind of pushed out that slime video, because I was like, oh, I really like this show and it's new, so let's do it. but
Yeah.
but
And
yeah,
even though
like,
I make like no videos ever, I mean, when I did, like, I would usually just talk about anything that I just kind of felt strongly or felt interesting about talking about.
yeah,
So yeah, I do understand when people want to do something that's current and they want to talk about it. One because, but I feel like this is coming from my personal opinion in this regards. I feel like it usually should be based on the grounds of you have something that you kind of want to throw into the conversation as
uh
opposed to just profit off of it. Like
I got you.
I feel like your personal investment in it should be more prominent than just because I'm just gonna make some sweet cash off this shit because it's like so everybody's gonna fucking watch it or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
like, a lot of anime YouTubers do that, but and they have kind of like their different approaches to it. Probably the only anime YouTuber that like I'm cool with kind of doing that, and like I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, this is great, would be like Digibro, because he so wears the whole idea of, yeah, I'm doing this for the fucking money on his like fucking sleeve.
Yeah.
He's so, there's no pretension or idea of just faking interest. He's just so, yeah, this is for money.
And he's just a walking anomaly in that case. He's just like, yeah, blah, I'm gonna do this. Like, oh, of course I'm doing it. Like, yeah. So
Yeah, Digi's weird. We might have like an entire part of the video just for Digi.
good God, yeah. I mean, my whole opinion on him is all across the board. So it's
Yeah. Fuck. Where to now?
well. How about just like how about our involvement with the community? Because I can tell you right now, I don't think I've really ever been that involved heavily with the community. Like I've always, and I'm like with this with a lot of the communities I'm in. Well, I say that, but I feel like I'm usually never part of like fan bases or community. I usually kind of just like what I like. I talk to anybody. Like usually the people I only interact with are people I actually know. So I'm not somebody who usually goes out of my way to talk with other people online until recently. Until I actually started becoming more vocal on Twitter and kind of just like talking about stuff. You know, I met you, and then I meet a lot of other people that have a lot of similar tastes to me. And then I've started kind of becoming more open. But even then, I'm still not like usually always having to put my thought in there. I've always been kind of on that backside. I watch stuff and like unfold, and then I just think to myself personally. I don't usually like feel the need to go out and share my opinions on everything.
Yeah,
so
I understand that.
Kind of people. I'm like, because I think one of the biggest reasons I've kind of probably developed this feeling is because I'll put in context that I'm a Sonic fan. So I've seen where that boat goes. I've seen where that's gone. I've seen all of the shit that comes there, and I don't want to be part of that. The train wreck that occurs there. So,
yep, Sonic. But yeah,
there's some great people in that community, but there's also just so much shitty people. So it's just like
I understand.
It's all over the board there too.
Yeah, like for me, like I haven't been part of a lot of like internet communities for the most part, like except for like very recently. Being part of like discords and stuff that are dedicated mainly to like certain communities of people who are interested in very similar things, and like one where a lot of the people are like interested in like Alisoft stuff, which is like the company that makes rants and all that, you know. But for the most part, I've not been very like involved in a lot of like the anime community and stuff like that, mainly because I didn't really run around with an online persona for like the longest fucking time, mainly out of like fear and just a lack of, you know, social ability in general. So for the most part, I just like, you know, I just chill at home and just watch YouTube stuff, and not really, I just like a watcher from the outside type thing, but I never really got the courage to actually like act and become more involved until like early 2018, January, like when I actually you know, made the Twitter account and, you know, started doing YouTube stuff.
Okay. So you're definitely in more of a similar boat to me.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool. But yeah, so like, and we, you know, I don't know. I don't remember how much I talked about it last podcast or whatever, but I'm not even somebody that's even been in the anime community that long, or like interested in like watching vividly into anime stuff. Like my experience has only been there the past 5 years.
Yep.
Nick,
and
technically I can go a little bit before that, but I really say I'm the big into anime right around 2014.
Yeah.
So I haven't really seen like what it was like during the early 2000s or like the
Ah,
2010s and then, onward. I've only really known certain times based of what I've seen and what I've heard people talk about. So it's kind of like, I hear it from other people or I just kind of see it um as has been kind of like even in like a lot, how in certain anime during the 2000s they'd actually kind of show you in ways of how the community is or anything. So that's
mm,
really the only way you get that. But even in those animes, that's the actual Japanese fan base. It's not like here, the Western, which is different than how it is there. We can say
yeah,
how there's like all those different sides and way things occur. Uh,
definitely. Like for if I had to say, like for me, like I'm not a baby like you when it comes to the anime community. Man,
yeah.
that sounds really like, condescending when I say it like that. But like I've been
Oh,
watching,
you've only watched 500 anime? Scrub. Yeah.
yeah, like I've been watching anime since I was like freaking 5. So
You were part of the
for
Toonami group, weren't you?
yeah, the Toonami group. I was a Toonami boy.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's I've been watching it for that fucking long, but I haven't been but I really only started watching things seasonally probably in the very very early 2010s. So like, 2011 probably. So that's when I
That seems to
started.
be around the time when the anime community started getting much bigger.
Yeah, that's when it started getting bigger and the
Yeah.
YouTube anime community kind of took off. And, Crunchyroll started becoming a lot much more of a force as
Yeah.
far as an
They
anime
went
stream.
away from their ER
Yeah,
pirate days
I
into
remember
actual
that shit.
being a company.
I remember that fucking shit when they were just a pirating site because they used to have like an app on like they used to have an actual app on fucking the Apple store for their fucking illegal shit.
Which is
So
just so crazy to me.
yeah,
Because
and
I was never around when that happened for Crunchyroll. So when
yeah.
I think about that actually being the case, I'm like, wow, that's weird.
Bro, I didn't even know. Well, technically, I kind of knew, but at the same time, it never really occurred to me that, like, yeah, like the whole concept of legal streaming versus illegal streaming was never something that really crossed my
No, no,
mind.
no, no. Yeah, like that wasn't something I really thought about until like maybe a year or two after I started getting really into anime. Because even when I watched, like, I'm not gonna lie about this. Like, even when I watched One Piece and Dragon Ball before I got big into anime, I was watching that stuff illegally. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
because
definitely.
there's really no good way to watch it other than buying it. But I wasn't big enough into it to just start buying it. Um, and then when I started getting into the shows originally, that's the only way you really know because that's what everybody talks about. Um, and that's just kind of the simple way to get in there. But nowadays, there's a lot more services, at least here in North America, and in some
Definitely.
other like local areas. We have like actual services that legit have that, and
Yeah.
even on stuff most people normally use, like Netflix or Hulu, like it's stuff there. So it's a lot different than how it kind of was before, where that's kind of stuff was very limited, or it'd only be like the really popular stuff, which is more than likely why a lot of people only talked about certain genres back in the day was because
Oh
that's like
yeah.
where
That
they
was what
actually
was
were.
fucking popular.
Yeah,
Like that's why like Shonen and Mecha were like so fucking big back in the day because
because
those
those
were
were the
like
actual shows that were on TV, or
yeah.
you could actually watch on like either be because they had DVD releases. Like I know for me, the whole reason I ended up watching like the first couple episodes of Naruto is because my library had a DVD that had the first couple episodes.
Yep.
And it was on TV, and that's how people talked about it. And it's like, oh, let me try this, and yeah, that's
Yeah.
how this kind of happened.
Bro, like I remember in like 2008. I remember watching Bleach for the first time after like checking it out from from the local library. And that shit. This is probably why I have such a soft spot for Bleach, because it really kind of blew this shit when it came to like anime like wide open for me,
Yeah,
because it was so different from a lot of the shit I had seen up to that point, being like heavily because a lot of stuff from that era, this was like before I was like really into like less, popular anime, which is weird to say, but Bleach was not as popular as like fucking Naruto or One Piece back then. Arguably, like Naruto was like the big shit at the
yeah.
time.
I don't know, like at least from what my experiences, I'm not gonna like completely dismiss that, like what you said, but like I always felt like One Piece is, well, at least
These days, it is the
is
most
definitely the
popular.
least talked about of the big like four shonen, which I would
Oh,
say is Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, and Dragon Ball.
mm,
Though I think Bleach is definitely falling down more. I don't know what's really taking
that's
its place, but
yeah, like
probably My Hero, if anything,
probably
for the
like
shonen boys. But yeah,
like it's really interesting when you think about it, because like nowadays with like Bleach, what's happening is because Bleach ended and like it doesn't have a running anime now, like obviously like a lot of the old Bleach fans are kind of like trying to move on to something else, or some of
yeah.
them are kind of
Unless I actually know people that do have like liked Bleach before, like I know they're a fan of it. I don't usually hear Bleach like ever, so that's kind of interesting to me. That it's kind of one of those like anime series that's kind of going like setting back into its time now from what it was.
Oh yeah,
Unless you play,
definitely.
one of those shonen fighting games, and then there's Bleach, and then I was like, oh, no, yeah, Bleach. So yeah,
Yeah, like it really was. Like back in the day, I remember it kind of hit its peak at some point in like I'd say like probably 2010
yeah.
was kind of like the
I would say
peak of
within the
Bleach.
early the 2010s, that's when I feel
Yeah.
like Bleach was like much bigger.
Yeah, that was at its like peak, and now it's like declining because of, poor writing in towards the end of the series, and
Yeah,
just overall just the series just being over. They didn't take the Boruto route of
they didn't decide to
milk
make the children. We must talk
yeah,
about the children.
milking the fucking series for all it's worth, like
uh,
which is such a
that's
yeah.
oh
Go
no, no,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
In some ways that's actually kind of like depressing, because I'm like, just let's let fucking Naruto be over. Why do we need a
Yeah,
fucking Boruto? Please stop.
because
Oh
I got to get that sweet cash, yo.
yeah. But yeah, anime community, like old anime community, was interesting because like
And when we say old, we're talking about like 2000s, not freaking 90s and
yeah
80s.
yeah
We're not
like
that old, but
I don't know about the fucking that fucking shit, but like old anime community, like even back then it was like really, it wasn't really anything that special, because there was such a dearth of people who actually like who actually like kept up with all the really otaku shit, like
yeah.
most people knew about like fucking Naruto and shit, which is why I said like Bleach kind of blew this shit wide open, because Bleach was like one of the first series I ever kind of just kind of picked out for myself
That you
without
didn't like, you didn't watch because it was like what was there. You kind of like,
yeah
ooh, what's this? And you watch it, and you're
yeah
like,
like
oh my god, yeah.
yeah yeah, and it was like one of the very first one of the really early episodes in like Karakura Town, where like Orihime and fucking Chad getting their powers and all
Mhm.
that shit. And I was like, oh man, I gotta see, I want to see more, but I don't have another DVD. I guess I'll go on the internet and see if I can find this shit. Oh wow, somebody generously and highly illegally uploaded the first 60 episodes of Bleach.
Oh well, no. You're like, oh my god, somebody put these up here. This is obviously legal.
Yeah, like I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think about it being legal or legal. I just thought, oh
Yeah,
shit, it's on YouTube. Let's watch.
which I feel like is something like a lot of people that are critical on anime piracy. Well, from what I can remember, they might have said this, but I just forgot. But I feel like from some of the videos I've seen, they tend to not talk about how the fact that probably a large percent of the people that do watch it illegally are people who don't know any better. Like they
Yeah,
are young and they're just kind of
yeah,
watching it because they look it up and like, oh, there we go, or whatever.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's either the mass majority of people who watch this stuff illegally are either people who are young and either don't have the money
or
or are
would do
just
it anyway.
ignorant, or there's also the other group where it's just like either they live in a place where they just can't get it legally or they just don't fucking care,
Yeah,
right? But the mass majority of people are just people who don't really have that much of an alternative. Like
yeah,
if they want to watch it, they're either ignorant of like a free legal way of an actually legal way of watching it, or they just can't get it legally. That's
yeah.
basically the case, which is why I'm not hard on people who
No, me either.
decide to like.
Like obviously my moral listed view is I try to watch things like legally always, um and I try to not do that. There's sometimes where I have to, if it's like something that I legit really do and I know it's like never or whatever, then maybe, but even then these days I try not to do that like at all. um so I won't harp on anybody who does because it's just kind of how it is.
Yep, that's how it be, man. Uh, so straight up, like after like going onto the internet in a way, in its own like weird way, kind of revolutionized just the consumption of anime for the entire community. uh
Yeah,
because back
but you can say
before,
it for everything.
yeah, like really everything was like
Uh-huh.
revolutionized by it, but like I don't think the anime community would be as big as it is today without the fucking internet, because that was what brought this very
At least here in the
dispersed.
Western world.
Yeah, yeah, in the West, like that's what brought a very dispersed community together. Is now it's like now people who normally wouldn't have anybody to like communicate and interact with over this thing, now they have somebody to like talk to about and actually like engage and discuss and watch things more easily.
Yeah.
And that's in its own way, that's like really fucking invaluable.
Yep. And to go right along with that, I just thought of this too. Like definitely anime conventions as well. That's like a
Oh
big
yeah,
part of the community.
it's a big
Um,
deal.
like I know we've talked a little like off videos about this, but like what has been your actual experience with them?
Anime conventions.
Yeah.
I've literally only been to, like, if you're talking about a very specific anime only convention, I've only been to a very small one, like one very small one, and that one it was an all right experience. In fact, it actually kind of fucking weirded me out because, like, being in a place with so many nerds and weebs and whatever,
Uh-huh.
that actually is just so weird to me, because normally I'm surrounded by just normal people, normies, right?
Yeah.
And that the experience, I almost feel like I don't know how I should act, because you feel so at home, but at the same time so not.
I don't know about you, but I'm usually on it talking to other people at
Yeah.
conventions because this might just be because of how I just kind of feel in general whenever talking to anybody that I don't really know as well, but you feel that you don't want to say things that will like either trigger them or like give a misunderstanding, like assumption about
Uh,
something. So, but I think that might just be me in general. Like, I feel like a lot of people, because they know the other people there are interested in the same things they are, because they're there to begin with, um, they're more open about it and they don't really care as much.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think it definitely depends, especially for your first time doing that.
Yeah. Like for me, I felt nervous being there, but not in a sense of like I don't want like a misunderstanding or anything. Like I guess sort of I don't want a misunderstanding, but mainly in the sense that I don't want to like make a fucking fool of myself or whatnot. Like I want people to like think I'm cool guy and and like me and shit.
Like I don't I
Right?
like if you overhear a conversation about something you like, and then you don't want to say something like, "Oh yeah, like remember this," and then they're like, "No, you're an idiot," or for like saying something like that, and you're just like, "Oh crap," or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but for the most part, most people there were like pretty fucking cool and all right people. Never really came across anybody who was like, usually everybody was just having fun, and I can appreciate that about like a lot of cons and stuff.
yeah,
And I think for the most part, that's one of the things I sort of want to improve on as far as just anime fan stuff is just going to more fucking conventions when I have
same.
more
Yeah,
freedom and stuff because especially stuff like fucking Anime Expo and stuff. I'd love to go there one day, but
yeah, that'd
like
be interesting.
yeah,
Especially
it's
considering they actually bring in studios and actors because it is the West Coast, so people from Japan can get there easily. So
yep,
they'd actually have more people center there.
yep, fucking West Coast, they get fucking everything. Fuck them. Like low key slight hatred of California just because they get all
Those
the nice
freaking
shit.
Californians.
Yeah. But yeah, it is what it is, man. Um uh
But I know for me, like my because I've only really been to one main centered anime convention. The amount of conventions I've been to has been like about four, I think, that are different. Um, and funny enough, my first convention I ever went to was G Fest for Godzilla stuff up in
ah,
Chicago. We did like me, my family, and my aunt and uncle family. This is where Shane's family. We
yeah.
took like a trip up there together, and this was one of the key points that we wanted to do because me, Shane, and his brother Connor have always been
Uh,
fascinated with doing it. So that was the first convention I ever really went to, legit, and so that's what I got my first experience of it, and that was definitely different because, like, especially with something like Godzilla, because that's so niche that when you go there
mm,
and you see a lot of people that like it, or you're surrounded by a lot of merchandise and a lot of stuff relating to that franchise, you're just like, what the heck? There's other people that like this stuff too? Or like,
yeah.
I didn't know there were so many people like this. And then you like name things off that are nerdy, but it's not nerdy around those people because they know it too. Um,
Yeah. It You feel at home yet at the same time uncomfortable because you don't want to fucking make a fool of yourself, but you're still
yeah.
yeah, but
But yeah, so that's how. But I also think it's different, at least for it was for me with G Fest, because I feel like the range of people that that were there felt so varied that it didn't feel as like that much as for me.
ah,
And because I've always loved Godzilla, I feel like it's just kind of a natural thing. Like I've loved him ever since I was a kid, so it's just kind of like this is a natural thing that'll happen. Um, and it was different for me when I actually went to my first anime convention because I'm definitely more newer to that, and I feel like I'm just getting in there, so I feel like it's like a new experience, but I'm also a fresh newbie of this
I
kind of
understand.
genre and whatever. So getting like going into there the first time, it was definitely a different experience. But I've been to the same convention now like 3-4 times, so I'm definitely more used to it. But yeah, but I think it's just interesting because that's where you can really see uh a lot of the people that are within the community, and especially local community, like if you go to a convention that's local and it's like that stuff, you realize, like, because sometimes, at least for me, I actually saw some people I remember seeing before in like my daily life, and I'd see them there. I'm like, oh, I didn't know they were into this shit.
Oh,
Yeah, like,
that
but I mean, like, I don't know them that well. Like, I've just kind of seen them around. That's what I mean.
I
And then
got
you
you.
see them, and you're just like, oh, I didn't know they were into that. Like, that's different.
Yeah.
Um, and this is kind of how it is.
Yep.
But that's also how, like, you get introduced to the merchandise as well. That's a different part of the anime community.
Yeah, merchandise. This thing
That's
I
something
yeah.
I've got to into. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, like you spend a lot of fucking money on merchandise. Like me, I guess the only thing I spend money on goods like physical copies of like volumes of manga
Yeah,
and stuff like that. That's usually where like as far as like actual merchandise goes, you could say, but not like stuff like figures or posters and other anime community otaku e stuff. Like
yeah,
that's mainly because like I never really had the free reign to do whatever the fuck I wanted with my room for like the longest time, because I used to share it with somebody. I
yeah.
just
Yeah, that makes sense.
I just kind of avoided doing that, because it's like, oh, I'd basically be wasting my fucking money, because I wouldn't be able to just decorate it or whatever. So
I don't
most
actually
of it,
remember when. Oh, sorry. You keep going. I'll talk
yeah,
later.
yeah, like so most of it's on like DVDs or Blu-rays or fucking volumes. That's basically it. Yeah,
Like
you
the
can.
actual stuff that contains the content, not so
Yeah,
much like the
definitely.
offshoot merchandise. Yeah,
Yeah.
which definitely for more like just kind of casual fans or people that like just like the content. That's generally how it is. It's usually the people that just like who are always liking to really just go into every aspect and corner of something is when they get in
Oh
everything.
yeah, when you get obsessed completely with something and you want all the merch.
Yeah. Um, I was trying to think, like, I don't know when I started collecting manga and actual seasons of anime. I think it was probably maybe a year after I started watching the stuff, or maybe a good couple months. I can't remember. Um, but I think it's only natural that I eventually got into figure collecting because that's something I've always done. Because I
Mm.
like when I was in high school, because I was a big Godzilla fan and just kaiju stuff in general. I've collected a lot of those figures, and I still have them. Um, and so I've always kind of had that connection with collecting figures. And I remember, for me with Godzilla stuff, it started because that was me. That was like one of the big, other than playing the. Sorry, I'm going to turn this into like a partial Godzilla podcast now, but
The
like,
partial Godzilla Ota Zone.
oh god, the Oda slash Godzilla zone. Um, but like that was like the first time I saw something outside of the first video game or any of the movies is when I saw like at freaking Toys R Us or back when we had KB Toys, they had Godzilla figures, and I was like, what? What the hell? And I was so surprised by that. So that's why I kind of got that impulse to just buy that shit because it was just like I didn't know it existed. I need to get it because it's
Yeah,
just so
the
cool to
first
actually own
drug.
the thing you like. Which is kind of like that natural instinct of any child, as they just like if they, which is how I shows such as Transformers and all that stuff worked is because you see the character on screen and you gotta buy the toy of them because they're cool.
Yep.
Um, and that's just kind of how it is, and I've always had that connection with stuff, so I guess it really makes sense that would happen with anime things, especially considering I have an even stronger connection with anime than I have with stuff prior to this. Um,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
it's just kind of a natural step, at least for me. Um, and I find myself like I'm not somebody who just kind of has like immediately jumped into this stuff and immediately starts buying everything to body pillows and all that stuff. I'm a very slow walker. Like, I'm slowly acquiring the things that are definitely more in the hardcore territory.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like a slow process for me.
Yep. Like, as far as like this stuff with me, again, like none of the I'm not really an offshoot merchandise guy. It's mainly like the actual physical content. And the newest thing that I've decided to shamelessly fall in love with and start buying physical copies of are like visual novels and eroge. Technically that shit is like part of the anime community, so I'll talk about it because it's
I would,
especially since
there's
I've
anime
gotten
of visual novels all the time.
definitely. I've actually, like I mentioned before, I'm part of like this Discord now that's into Alisoft stuff, and like that's really interesting to think about because with that part of the anime sphere, the anime visual novel community thing, that whole part of it is so, it feels like its own it feels like an island within a nation.
It's a niche within a niche. That's what
it's
it
like
really
a niche
is.
within a niche. Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's people that like anime, and then there's people that likes visual novel. Like,
Yeah.
and a lot. Like, they don't just like, they haven't played like a joke visual novel or something. They actually have sat down and played freaking, in my case, Shiranokuni, Jisenju no Mao, or you've played something like Little Busters or Clanad, and you actually played the visual novels and not the watch the anime. Or in your case, rants, something like that, where you talk to most people in the community, like anime community, and they'll have no fucking clue what you're talking about.
Yeah,
You're like, what is that?
It's
Or
so fucking obscure. Like, like, and as a consequence of that, like, I find that some of the people who you'll meet within that sphere of like the community are some of the most hipster motherfuckers you will ever meet. Like, I swear to God, like a lot of them are good people, but
yeah,
like, man, dude, like some of them, they're like,
I'm not gonna lie, I definitely was kind of like that the first time I read them because I was like, nobody reads visual novels. I'm unique, and then you actually find out there are a good amount of people that do, but it's not something you really gloat that heavily about. But
yeah, it's very much, it's super fucking niche and whatnot, and because it's niche, so few of them even like make it over here. It's kind of a miracle now.
I'm glad it's changed recently, though.
Yeah, it's been changing.
We talked about this, I think, in the last, but yeah,
like we definitely talked about how like things used to be like you had to pirate like fucking 90% of all visual novels because like none of that shit was over here. Now like you're steadily getting to a point where stuff is making its way over here, like Chaos Child just got
Chaos Head, not yet.
Maybe someday.
We got the shitty anime, but we haven't gotten the game yet.
Yeah, we haven't gotten the actual visual novel. But yeah, Chaos Child, came out on Steam. So I mean, there's fucking hope for like for stuff actually getting over here and maybe turning a profit.
And now that Steam has allowed freaking Eroge on their platform, it's like, oh shit, like, freaking the Wild West now.
Yep, it's the fucking Wild West. That shit still makes me laugh.
It does, I'll laugh if anybody knows what I'm talking about here. But like, I remember when I was on the other day and I was just looking at like, I don't even know why I scrolled down. I usually don't, but I was scrolling down on what newly came out. And I saw Fun Bag Fantasy came out. I was like, what the fuck? They put this on Steam? And I was just like, oh my God.
Oh, fun.
That was the one I showed you a picture of a while ago. The actual hentai of it. I was just like, oh my God, they put that Arage on here now. I'm like, dude. Yep. And it's
Yep.
so odd to me because it was only like a year and a half ago where Steam was like, you know, we're gonna get rid of all this stuff because it's wrong. And now they're just like, nah, have at it.
Nah,
Just put
they're
it.
like, nah, fuck it. Just put whatever the hell you want on
And it
here.
came out of nowhere.
I
There was like
honest
no build up to that. All of a sudden, I
no
just saw somebody talk about like Steam is 18 plus free now. I was like, wait, what?
plot twist.
Weren't they like fucking conservative to hell recently? Like none of that shit. Okay,
Bro, like honestly, this is the way it should be. Like
yeah.
this is the correct timeline for Steam, right? Where fuck like
You
you
should be able
should
to buy. You
yeah,
should be able to buy Putt Putts Go Saves the Zoo and Fun Bag Fantasy on the same platform. Like that should be natural, man.
yeah, like you should fuck like a platform or any kind of like industry thing, like they should not be fucking babying and parenting. It's like the fucking Steam is not my mama, right? They don't tell me what the fuck I can and can't play, and and they shouldn't disallow things because of like more because these moral ideals. Honestly, fucking moralizer probably I cannot fucking stand moralizers, dude. It's probably one of the biggest like my biggest things as far as like people or personality types that kind of annoy me is like the type of people like it's fine to have your own sense of morality or whatever, but when you want to force that on other people, that is when I have a fucking problem.
Yeah.
It's
Or when
like
you don't have the ability to at least talk about on a middle ground aspect and at least hear both sides and discuss it as opposed to just yell at somebody and like say I'm right, you're wrong, who cares.
yeah.
That's where it gets to me, is when it's kind of that mentality as opposed to just kind of like actually just allowing it to talk about or whatever and just
Yeah.
stating whatever.
Yeah, some people are like, "Oh, Steam has given up on quality control." Dude, they're just letting people, because the whole point of Steam is to be like a storefront for other people's stuff. So, is it really fair to tell people who have products that other people want that their stuff is not allowed on on a platform because of like more moral reasons that
Yeah.
somebody in that company has, like that people who actually want to buy shit can't get what they want, and people who want to sell their shit, they can't sell their shit simply because of like the feelings of a few people who run the
Mhm.
thing. And I'm like, yo, that's like super fucking unfair. But yeah, like now we've gone on to like weird moral Steam stuff. Like we're talking, this is supposed to be like the Ota Zone, the anime community
No,
thing.
this is the Oda Annie Godzilla visual novel niche morality on Steam cast. So,
Yeah, basically. But I mean, this is kind of the point of the Ota Zone in its
yep.
own weird way. It's just to talk about whatever. So we'll keep going. um, yeah, like visual novels, they cool, like read them, they're fun even though they're
Yeah.
long as fuck. Like man, I remember I'm like reading Chaos Head right now, right? And I don't know how close I am to actually like finishing it. I'm probably nowhere near, but like straight up, I remember hearing, oh, Chaos Head is actually short for a visual novel. I looked up, oh, how long would it take me to like finish Chaos Head? And I remember seeing on this one website, it's like, oh, it would like if you're going at a pretty decent pace, it should take you around 21 hours. I'm like, okay. And it's like,
Uh-huh.
oh, if you're going like if you're not really that rushing, it might take you 37 hours. And if you're just like lazing about, it might take you 47. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's short for a fucking visual novel.
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to check it on VNDB because it's where I always go to check links of stuff. And they classify it as a medium, so like 10 to 30 hours.
Okay, gotcha. Because
Which,
I'm like,
yeah. But I get where you're coming from because I've been on both sides. I've played some really short visual novels, and I've played some insanely long visual novels. I'm looking at you, Rewrite. Jesus Christ. Um, Anything by Key is long as fuck. But like every time I've read a Key visual novel, I'm pretty sure I've had to. Well, no, I think Little Busters is the only one I was actually able to read through the whole thing like at one time frame. But when I read like Clanad and Rewrite, there was like a good couple months I played it, and then a couple months of breaks, and then I went back into it. So they're just so big that that's just how it is because it's like yeah, they're 100+ hours, and it's not like an RPG or something where you're really like focusing all the time. A visual novel, you're just passively reading most of the time. So that's pretty much reading like 10, not 10, like 5 big books at once. So yeah.
It's like introducing the world's longest book. Oh boy. But yeah, like moving. Let's probably move away for a little bit from visual novels.
We can always talk about visual novels at some other point. So
yeah.
And considering my history and how visual novels really pushed me into the anime community, I'm bound to bring it up all the time anyway.
Yeah. So, dude, you wanna? Because for some reason I just felt like doing this, but you want to talk about You want to go back to like anime YouTube because this is what inspired me to talk about this in the first place. Like, like want to talk about like various anime YouTubers and just talk about like what we like and don't.
This is either gonna turn into a massive show or like maybe a good heartfelt liking of that. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Okay, why? Who are you thinking of?
Let's start with who we were talking about earlier. That would be interesting to talk about. Everybody's favorite Gonzo journalist, Digibro. Yay!
Where do you even begin with him?
Yeah, because I'm like, yeah, why not? Because I just felt like, yo, it's Digi. Everybody has an opinion on Digi. Why can't we can't be a part
Everybody
of
has
the
an
YouTube
opinion on
anime
Digi, but they don't want to. It's gonna come up.
Yeah, you just cut out a second ago.
I said, like everybody has an opinion on Digibro, but they don't bring it up because they know something's gonna come up.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't be part of the YouTube anime community without giving your opinion on Digibro. Okay. So,
or him giving an opinion on you.
Yep, basically.
Yeah, like I know for me, my first time I watched any of his things was I watched his SAO video, like the really long, like hour-long video where he's like playing some MMORPG in the background and he's just talking about whatever about it.
Yeah.
And this is what really starts the whole my opinion on Digibro, is because his tastes are very in line with mine. And what I mean by that is that, like, if he doesn't like something, I tend to not like it either. If he really likes something, I tend to really like it too. Like, I love Hidamari's Sketch, which is what he got me into. I think the first season of Psycho-Pass is great, which he also thinks. Shit. Like, I was having some... What are some other things? He really likes the first Bakemonogatari season a lot, and I think he kind of has varying opinions of the other ones, and I agree with that. He defends and talks about slice of life all the time, and I have that opinion. And and then for things he dislikes, he doesn't like SAO, which I agree with. He goes into some conversations about some like series that are overpopular or whatever. He has opinions that I'm like, that's interesting to hear about, and I'm like that. But then he'll have like opinions that just seem to come out of nowhere, or he'll have like some opinion that feels so out of place, or like that doesn't make any sense, or like hypocritical or whatever, which he always says, like, I say this shit all the time, and like my opinions just vary. So it's hard to get like a reading on how I think of
what's an example of like an opinion like that?
I've
Like,
talked about Clanhead before. I don't know if I talked about it on the other podcast. Did
I
I?
don't think you did. I think you talked about it. You talked about it to me, like off, like
Yeah.
recording. But
Okay. Okay, so Clanhead's a good example is because like I think this was in he did videos about talking about his like my anime list and things he's completed and why he gives scores or why he drops stuff. And I watched those. Um and he got to Clanad at one point, and he said the reason he didn't like Clanad is because he felt like it was emotionally manipulating him, and he didn't
yeah,
want
I
that to be the
remember that.
case. Like he's like, I don't like it because it did that, and you know, I know it's gonna do that, and I'm gonna be biased or whatever. And then I'm over here just going like, that's the point. Like you're supposed to feel
Yeah.
those things because it's drama and it's romance and it
Yeah,
has
it's
those
supposed
moments.
to make you feel.
It's supposed to make you think about those contexts and those situations and make you feel those, you know, ways in which they kind of are expressing it, because that's just how it's written. Um, and if you do feel that way, I wouldn't always say it's emotionally manipulating unless it really feels that way. Like, you know, sure you could say that, but I don't. I would argue that not everything in that series is. Definitely, there are some times where it feels like, you know, they're just putting drama in there for drama, but I feel
One
like there's
second.
still in
One
Clanon's
second.
case. What?
Yeah, 1 second. It's gonna
Okay.
mess up recording, but whatever. All right, back. And I just got an important letter or whatever. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, we can get back into it. It's kind of bizarrely, I don't know if I'd call it unprofessional. Let's just call it natural feeling. But whatever. Let's get back into it. Well, you were going on about Clan Adnick.
Yeah.
Go on.
So you could probably just like edit this back in, right? Or
Yeah, just like edit like that little space in between where I'm not there. We just edit, so we edit that out, so it'll be like, it's like, I gotta go real quick, and then it's like,
Yeah.
I'm back. It's like,
okay.
like that.
Oh yeah, I was just talking about like how, like, you know, in anime in which they, you know, that feeling of emotional manipulation, like sure, sometimes there is like drama in Clanad that does feel like it's just kind of in there to be drama, but I still feel like, at least in Clanad's case, there still is a reason for it, and there's still some payoff to it. It's not like it's just, you know, there to be like, oh look, we're a drama, so we gotta have drama. At least to me, like I know people can debate about what like aspects of it, and I'm talking about the anime here. I'm not talking about the visual novel, because I have also feelings for that because I've read and watched the anime. And so I just think that's just kind of weird for him to say. And I think he watched most of the original Clannad and never watched After Story because of that feeling or whatever. And like, to me, that just feels so off, because I feel like Clannad is something that he would probably have like better opinions of, but he just kind of says no because of that. And it's just like, okay.
Yeah. It's one of those like disconnects you have with like anime YouTubers sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I've had those feelings over a show.
And I feel that way with him because, again, it's weird because I do have a lot, like, I feel like we have similar taste in certain regards to things. Like, I know another thing is that he really likes like Experiment Lane. Like, he talks about that before. I really liked that too. I found that fascinating. And
I like Lane too.
Yeah, there's like a lot of those kind of different individual shows and things or opinions he has on, you know, some stuff that I agree with, and I like, you know, do agree with in that way. But then there's other stuff where it's just like I'm just like, no, that's just you, dude. Or he'll I don't know if I can think of any, but he'll like get held up on certain things in shows, and he kind of
I know one.
blinded by that, and he won't like accept it for past that or whatever. And yeah,
I have one example I remember that I thought was like really, I thought it was really funny too. I sort of understand, but at the same time, I'm also like, oh, dude, it was his whole like it was twofold. It's two different things. I'll give two examples. There was the one with ReZero, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And
I remember he
I
doesn't like that, so yeah.
yeah, he doesn't like it, right? And there's like in the reasoning he gave, I remember I remember one of the things he said about it, or in his like debate with like Mother's Basement and like subsonic sparkle, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And in there he said like, okay, he got like really heated and upset about like, Subaru rejecting Rem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, he cucked Rem. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. Because in my mind, I feel like that's just a weird, like, it's a weird, like, misunderstanding of that entire scene or the whole point of that. It was like it's supposed to be part of Subaru's characterization that he's not going to like lie to her or string her along like that,
Yeah.
which is like very common in like a lot of harem
And
series.
every harem ecchi where they're just like, I don't want to say anything, or like,
it doesn't say anything.
well, at least at least he actually has a standby opinion, like, or feeling like he's not going to be like, no,
he's
yeah,
very
really,
honest
blah, blah.
with her. Yeah, he doesn't fucking bullshit.
Granted, I'm still going to be like, are you dumb? But
yeah, like everybody's like, yeah, like she's the best, but like, yeah, everybody loves Rem, but like, there's a lot of things that also, I guess, like because I've read some of the light novels, I should say,
yeah,
and I know a bit more. There's a lot of things that would suggest that, like, Subaru's whole obsession with Emilia, like, there's something like weird about that, like that's not.
I would say that's probably just a lack of actual evidence, or like in the anime them showing that off. Like I feel like that was one of my critiques I had of ReZero, is that towards the end of the anime it feels like Emilia was just kind of sidelined and she was not really relevant, even though she's like one of the main characters. But that might have just been the anime. I don't know how the light novel.
It's kind of, it has to do, I would say like that was one of the issues with the anime, is just kind of the structural differences between like the web novel and the light novel and the fucking anime, where it's this weird like lost in translation thing, where if I wanted to tell somebody to watch the show, I would say watch it all like do not wait to watch it episode by episode, because watching it when it was airing was probably one of the bigger mistakes to begin with, for like some people who like really hate it, because it's not really structured in a way that makes it like really entertaining to watch that way.
Well, you say that, but I remember it was huge.
Oh yeah, it was very
like, oh my god, especially with the fact of like people dying and shit. Like, because a show has those dark undertones, it usually does create a bigger popularity, because that's something to talk about.
Yeah, like it worked
when it definitely switches
really well.
Expectations. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, it worked like really well in the beginning of the show, because the earlier half of the show is very like, it's very fit for like an airing, like episode by episode thing. But when you once you get to like the part of the series where where Subaru has to kind of figure shit out and like earn Emilia's trust back and figure out how to deal with all these other problems and like all that, once you get to that part, that's where it starts to, like, in my opinion, hurt the series, because in the light novels, structurally speaking, like each part is kind of divided up a bit more. It's divided up a bit more evenly, so it flows a bit better.
Yeah,
in those sections. But in the anime, it's like something bad will happen, and then you gotta wait till the next episode. And it feels like never ending, right?
I can think about how that also affects Subaru's character, because there'll be times where he's kind of going through those depression like downslopes, and if you have to watch an episode of that and that was the only episode you had to end on, you're
Yeah,
probably going to think very negatively on him and like, why the fuck are you acting like that? Like, like,
yeah,
are you an
exactly.
idiot or whatever? And if you are left with that and you don't get the resolution right afterwards, you just kind of get this negative feeling, which I
Definitely.
can also relate that back to the whole fucking um, uh, Darling of the Franks incident with the
Yeah,
Ichigo
definitely.
kiss. Like that's like the same damn thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Is because you don't get that next episode that pretty much just helps you see where it goes right next, and you don't get that long wait. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, we're supposed to be talking about fucking
Digi Bro,
Digibro,
and now
but
we're
we got
talking
off.
about
Yeah, because I was trying to make a point about how yeah,
the cucking thing.
Digi got like really obsessed with that particular point, and like again, and he kind of misses the bigger picture of what this character is
Yeah.
like about, or what like the whole deal with that thing was. And another thing, this is like big, this is like a broader, this is another instance where there's like this disconnect, and that was with that one show Recreators, another show that starts with Re, right? And as you know, I don't like Recreators,
Yeah.
but there's like this big, but like, you know, Mother's Basement and Digibro both really like that show, and I'm like, why? And I'm like, that's one of those weird disconnects I had, though I
Yeah.
haven't like seen that much content on why they do like it, but like I sort of see like a little bit with that one character. What's her face? The one girl that like monologues a bunch in like a lot of the episodes, the white haired wizard chick. That's kind of cute, but at the same time, I also, you know, dislike, and I feel like a lot of people like the show because of her character.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I was trying to make a point about Digibro, but I kind of just got off fucking topic. Like,
No. It's fine because I know for me, like I find it another thing in my reason to kind of critique or like have a disconnect with him is that he'll say he doesn't watch a show, he'll not like watch things because he looks at it, he gets a somewhat of an impression, and he immediately says, "Oh, this is just dumb trash for the sake of dumb trash. I don't need to watch it."
Oh
And it's just
yeah,
like, sure, some of those shows are like in that category, but that doesn't mean there's no merit to it. It doesn't mean like there's absolutely nothing. Um,
mm,
and it's kind of that initial like, because the show's just like this, it's just like, whatever. I'm just gonna be like, that's my opinion of like and whatnot. So
yeah. I absolutely get that, which brings me into another aspect of Digibro. Don't worry, audience. I'll get to like what I do actually like about Digibro in a bit. This is just us like front loading all like the negative stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, another thing being kind of how Digibro like talks and interacts with people at times. Like I feel like this is both his strength and his weakness, by the way. Since the strength of it is because because he just says whatever the fuck he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Like people can kind of jive with his honesty, and whenever he's saying something that people like strongly agree with, like he can almost feel like, yo, he's your mouthpiece into the void of this world, where it's like he's saying what we're thinking, that kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? But at the same time, whenever he says something kind of douchey or whatever, like it feels even worse because of the way he says it. um
Yeah. It's because
I've
he has that I don't want to be like, completely negative, but he does have that air of, narcissistic and like not complete superiority, but like he has the air of wanting to convey importance and stuff and,
Yeah,
have a voice. And because of how he comes off sometimes, it just kind of seems like he's being arrogant and he's
yeah.
being like, I'm knowledgeable at this shit. But,
Yeah, but I don't
it's
think that's
really
always the intention. I think
no.
like I think sometimes he just kind of opens his mouth. That's how he talks, and that's how he
Mm-hmm.
projects himself, and he just kind of comes off that way. And it can be very off-putting to some people.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because I've noticed about him is that there are situations in which he's in, like if he goes to a convention or something and he talks, like from what I've seen, he'll keep in mind, like even though you when you see him, you expect him to be no filters always, but there's times where he does actually kind of stick to what he's supposed to. Like if he goes to a panel that's not supposed to be like R rated, he will kind of keep it in their boundaries. But then you see him online and stuff, and he's just like, be free and like don't constrict. And it's just like it goes against that, and it's odd when you see it like that because it's like on one ways he's like he does go with what he's expected and supposed to go with, and other times he's just like, no, fuck that, I'm just gonna do what I do, and it's I think that just to me represents him is that he's just this amalgamation of consistency and inconsistencies all the time. You can't get a bearing on who he is or um, where he stands on anything. Like you could not assume anything about him in terms of what he'll like or dislike or talk about.
Oh,
And
definitely.
because
Like
you don't know.
it's like Russian roulette sometimes with his stuff. That's one of the reasons why like I do watch his stuff, but at the same time I have to keep my distance because
Yeah.
sometimes I get into these like moods, and I talked about this on Twitter like a bit. Like, well, I get into these moods where I crave digi videos and I'll watch a ton of them, but then I pull back because sometimes something he does or something he says, or some things he'll like do and say will just kind of like start to weigh on me and get on my nerves. So I'm
Yeah.
just like I have to pull back, and then like the cycle just kind of repeats itself. And yeah, it's like when I watch something, there are times where I'll watch something, and I kind of have an idea of like, okay, this you will probably dislike this, right?
Yeah.
Maybe probably dislike this, right? And I can be more. I feel like I'll be more right about that than thinking about what Digibro will necessarily enjoy,
Hmm.
because sometimes he'll enjoy shit where I'm like, oh, wow, I did not expect that. I didn't
Yeah.
expect you to like this of all things. Or yeah, like yeah, that's Digi. I might as well we might as well just go into like the more positive stuff because I don't want this to
I
be
already
just
said
like
mine is that like I have a lot of similar tastes to him, and I actually do think he brings up interesting conversations on stuff.
yeah.
And he has a lot of opinions on either some shows that I think negatively, and he says some valid stuff on it that I'm like, yes, like. There's some times where he'll be negative on a show. I'm like, go to his video. Like he has all of the opinions I have on it, and like why I think that way.
Mm,
And that for me, that's just kind of how it is sometimes. Or he'll be
yeah.
positive, and I'll be like, or he'll just bring up conversations that I'm like, that's fascinating. And one thing I think that he did like a good job, and this is controversial, but that whole like thing on sexuality and stuff, like I think he has valid
Ah,
opinions and definitely should be able to speak about that. And I think the video he made on it was a solid way to talk about it, even though
yeah.
some people are going to be like, no. So
Like, yep. Yep.
yeah.
Like the thing I really admire about Gigi, and I said this before, this was his strength and his weakness. Now I'm going to talk about why it's his strength, is his ability to like on camera to say whatever the fuck he needs to say. Cause like not everybody can do that. Like not
No.
everybody has like the balls to just go up and say whatever the fuck. Like one of his more recent videos was that I like really like, kind of similar, came out around the same time as this sexuality thing, and it was the one where it's like, who the fuck are you, or who the hell are you, that one video where it's just him ranting about people telling him what he can and can't say. It's about saying, dropping the N-bomb, and I'm like, most people don't have the fucking balls to get up there and say whatever,
Yeah.
right? And he does make a lot of valid points during that time, and I can appreciate that. I think the anime community does need that, like needs somebody who can just say whatever the fuck what needs to be said at
To be
times.
the unfiltered, just kind of actually
Yeah,
brings the conversation to a
yeah,
front.
yeah. You need somebody there to fucking say what needs to be said, and
Yeah.
that's what I think Digibro like really brings to the table as far as like an anime YouTuber. I wanted to kind of say like that, the nice thing about Digibro, because I feel like all too often he gets way more
He's
hate
just
than I
kind
think.
of like the negative. He's like that. The cesspool of negativity is
Yeah,
him because
yeah,
he
like
has a very critical, analytical mind, and because his opinions and shit he talks about is always so controversial.
yeah, definitely. Like he's one of those people where like too much of what's following him is like the bad shit, and people
Yeah, when
don't
people
really.
think Digibro, they usually are like, "Oh, Theo," or "Oh, he said this negatively." They
Yeah.
don't usually think about like, "Oh, he talked about like how Psychopaths is like this really deep look into kind of like societies and rule." Like nobody does that. They're just like, "You remember how he just shat on Sao for like 2 hours?"
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, yeah,
Yep,
or or the one that people always bring up. Remember how he watched Asterisk Wars and made like 12 episodes on it?
bro.
So
Like those videos, like the ass war videos. I honestly really like those because
yeah, no, I do too.
they deconstruct the problems with a lot of these like shitty light novel adaptations, and
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate like what they did, because you can say like each video, it has to be like that because each video is tackling an entire aspect
Yeah,
of a genre, not just a show.
like people can poke fun at it because if you don't actually watch them, then you just assume it's somebody who's just trying to milk a conversation as much as possible. Which,
Yep.
to some degree he is, but I mean,
Yeah.
he also is talking about individual aspects in every episode that's different and also ties into the show itself. And he goes on tangents, but that's just kind of how he is. So,
Yeah, that's definitely the case. And I honestly just think that, yeah, the anime community is just better for having this guy here, even if he is pretty fucking weird and as kind of an enigma in certain ways. But
no, he
yeah,
just is.
let's go on to another anime YouTuber. Uh, what's another one? I either want to go in the direction of talking about. Let's talk about Giguk,
Oh
because
boy, yeah.
yeah, because I guess because he's a much older anime YouTuber, and he's
Yeah,
had
you
like.
don't think about it, but he's definitely one of the big YouTubers been around one of the longest.
Yeah,
Um,
and
would you
yeah,
say that Arcana is one of the other ones too?
yeah, Arcada is one of the other ones. Basically, like a lot of.
I feel like those two are kind of like the grandpappies of anime YouTube,
Yeah,
at least
definitely.
like popular anime stuff.
Yeah, popular anime YouTube. The grandpappies were definitely fucking Giguk and Arcada. Um, the thing about.
And it's funny
Yeah.
because I have like polarizing opinions on both. Like I'm positive towards one and negative towards the other. So. But go ahead. All right.
Okay, so as far as like Giga goes, I honestly, even though sometimes people give him shit for like, oh, we don't like the comedy of well, I don't like the comedy of his video, or rada rada rada. But like,
Yeah.
I honestly think that he's one of the more enjoyable anime YouTubers to watch, because whenever I go into a Giga video, I never feel like I'm gonna come away being pissed off at
Mm-hmm.
it, or I'm gonna come away with like mixed feelings or whatever. Like sometimes it's just like it's his own like little video on whatever show he's interested in that season or whatever, or and sometimes, occasionally, though you may think this is weird, sometimes I actually laugh at some of his fucking jokes.
What?
I don't
Are
think
you
he's as
funny?
unfunny. I don't think he's as unfunny as people say. And I think
That
honestly
I think that's just
expecting
kind of a change in popularity because there was a time where which I feel like everybody liked Giga, and now it's like it's kind of more popular to not like find him funny. Which
yeah, I know, right? Like in some ways it's cooler to say that you think his stuff is like unfunny and oh, look at Giga, look at oh, he's not cool. He's not the OG swaggin YouTuber or whatever,
what
right?
happened to him? Yeah,
Yeah, when really if you actually look at the analytics of his channel, I know this is basically, the rapper, I have so much more money than you are, the penis. Look at how big my cock is. But his as far as like anime YouTube goes, he does have like one of the highest subscriber counts in the community,
yeah,
and like generally, I honestly think he's one of the better big YouTubers just for like not getting up to the same fucking antics that some of the larger ones do, that some of the other larger ones do. Cause like a lot of the larger ones will like, get up to drama or like will have, or will like on Twitter especially will
yeah.
go on about their own like, political their own like little political ideas
Tangents.
or ideologies. Mother's basement. Yeah,
Oh man, yeah, no, no,
yeah,
no. As critical as I'm gonna be on Giga in a minute or two, I'll give him that. He's very
yeah.
much
Positive
to
first.
himself. Yeah, he's very much to himself. He's not a guy who starts shit just because he wants to start shit. He just kind of like
Yeah, like he's
he's
one of
in
the
his, I
only
see
ones
Giga
that are
as
like
somebody who's
that.
in his own little world. Like he's not like he well okay yeah but in like a general broad of like not being an ass to other people, he's just kind of himself. He doesn't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
do shit like that.
But yeah, that was the positive, I guess, coming from Jade, who doesn't like hate Giga.
No, yeah, like okay, I'm definitely gonna be probably negative on him and positive, but that doesn't mean I've never liked him. I did like him, and I don't think he's a bad guy or anything like that. Like I just think I've grown out of his content, and I'll get
Ah,
into more of that in a minute. But like I think for somebody who's not really into anime stuff, like he's definitely a safe bet to watch and just kind of enjoy it
definitely.
for the ride.
Yeah, like for like an
Which
early
is
anime.
not a. I don't think that's a critical, like a big critical thing on him. Because
Yeah,
I think that takes talent to actually just kind of be that casual
yeah,
get
like
into.
every community needs somebody like that to be there for like, the new people, right?
Yeah,
Like we all like they all need something like that. So if that's like the role Giga has in the community, I think that's a fine role. It's not everybody needs to be like fucking pause and select. I'm gonna go into these super detailed
yeah.
uh ideas of what this show's about and like what the director was trying to do and all this other stuff, right?
And everybody kind of needs that common voice to just kind of rally around, just kind of get that basis of a standard that's kind of there and that you can kind of base other opinions and stuff off. And I feel like he's in that category more.
Yeah,
And I don't think any of his videos, like at least production wise, I think all of his stuff is fine. Like I'm not gonna be somebody's like, oh, look at the editing he does, it's so bad, it's so cringy. Like no, he definitely puts time into it. He definitely works things out, and he just does that stuff because he finds that fun and entertaining. And can you really be like he's a horrible creator because he does that? Like no, I'm not gonna be somebody who's just he's a piece of shit because how dare he do something that he finds fun in. Like, no. Um, but yeah, see, but those are like my opinions. But like, actually getting more into the negative stuff, my biggest problem with Gigas is I feel like he's just the parrot of the anime community. Like,
ah,
and he is what people think of. Like, they think when somebody says an opinion, and he's always late to the party too. Like, people will say shit about something, like an anime, and then here's like a week later or a couple days later, Giga says it, and everybody's just like, "Oh, look at like, oh my god, yes!" It's just like, but we've all been saying that. He just kind of said it, and since he's popular, everybody kind of goes to him for it,
Yeah.
and it's just
That's
like,
kind of the safe bet though. Is like you'll get the most amount of people to come to your side by saying what everybody is thinking.
yeah, like for like a perfect example is he made a lot of like, I can say this, I made a video on this show, like, that gives me importance here, but like Darling in the Franxx is like one I can think of in which I this is like right around the time in which I started going away from him. Is I said my piece on him. I've read a lot of people's opinions on this show. Well, not him. I'm sorry, on the show. So like, there was all these opinions going around, people's comparisons and stuff, and then he finally makes a video. The videos of Darling in a Franxx in 5 minutes that he was doing with a bunch of other anime. And here he is saying like, "Oh, you're just a ripoff of Neon Genesis Evangelion," and it's just like he's saying all this stuff that everybody's already said like 500 times.
Oh
and
yeah.
and I'm like, okay, like, yeah, good for you, dude. You noticed something everybody's been saying, like, yeah,
Yeah.
clap, pat on the back. Like, okay.
Yeah, that Ava thing actually kind of annoys me, to be honest. Like not the fact that Giga said it, but just the idea of it in general. Like, oh, everybody go, oh, it's like Ava, it's like Ava's. Yeah, we get it.
Well, considering how big Ava is and kind of created that concept of kids and mechs and making it psychological, I get why people compare it. But yeah, I don't think you should only compare it to that. Like, I think anything, I think Darling in the Franxx has more comparisons to fucking Gurren Lagann than anything. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, like, and um, he also, well, I don't really know if I'd be that critical on like the fact that he's definitely he's also kind of this gateway bridge between being an anime somewhat analytical person. Because as much as I say that, I don't think like he's like very analytical. He just kind of says his opinion, and I feel like his opinion is usually pretty general and just kind of in the middle. He usually doesn't hate things a lot, and he's usually either he thinks something's okay or he loves it. He's usually not like somebody who's a massive hater.
I think he does have things he dislikes, but he doesn't make videos on them. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing.
Like, a good example is like SAO. He doesn't like SAO, kind of, but he also is just like, he also does like aspects of it. So he's just like, it's okay. And so it's not like a negative, which again, I'm not gonna say like he can't have that opinion, but that's like an example of like, even shows in which you'd expect maybe there's more negativity, it's not, and that activity is just usually joke oriented. So it's just like, okay. And so it's either, he kind of keeps his content generally being positive or neutral with some, but everything has the jokes, no matter what. But he doesn't like make anything negative. He doesn't really super negative things. But if that's how he wants to do it, I'm not going to be like that critical on that. My biggest problems with him is just that he just seems to usually parrot things and gets all the credit for it, which isn't necessarily completely his fault. But at the same time, it's just like, come on, dude. Like, really? You're just going to make an easy like that? All right. And so that's how I see it in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. I guess that's it for Gigok. We didn't really go that hard on him.
No.
I guess.
Well, you don't have any negatives?
Oh, a negative?
Or did I say all of it?
You said everything I would have said.
Okay. No, it's okay. You're just sending all the hate mail to me on Gig. Menelik, you dickhead! How dare you not like him? I don't hate the guy. Yeah. I should clarify. I'm not somebody who usually hates like anybody.
Yeah, like
I have dislikings to things people do, but I'm not somebody who's like, you're a piece
yeah.
of shit. Like,
Yeah,
I
I
have a
don't
hard time bringing
yeah,
myself to
like
do that.
quick disclaimer, I do not like hate any of these guys. I just they're just little things they do. Basically the same thing Nick's saying. Like they're just little things they do that I either like or don't like, and
Yeah.
we're just kind of saying our piece on it. So yeah, like here's another one. Speaking of which, let's go to like a really controversial one, which I don't care about. I don't care. I'll say it because like I'm a small YouTuber, and this is the perk of being a small YouTuber. So I'm
We
just
can
gonna
say this
use
shit.
it.
We're not going to get massive backlash yet.
Yeah, we could just say whatever until they like to like 5 years from now, people pick this shit up and
Oh,
say,
remember
look,
when they said this about that guy? Like,
yeah, yeah, basically. Yep, like burning all the fucking bridges right now. But yeah. Let's go with talk about somebody who's kind of gone a little wild recently. Let's talk about the pedantic romantic.
ooh, you're going to have to take this one over because I really have not watched most of this.
Okay, so I've seen a lot of her stuff. So, well, not an insane amount of her new stuff, but basically like a
Yeah.
lot of like the older stuff. And well, things have kind of gotten a little crazy because at first things were kind of like things were cool, right? Everything was all right. And, she was kind of like the you know that one ascended fan of Digibro who's really into his content, and then like decided to like make her own channel and do things. She was a he back then, but you get the point, right?
Yeah. Wasn't there a
uh
time in which Digibro actually did kind of like promote Pedantic?
yeah,
I
there
think
was a
I
time
remember
when
that's like the most involvement. I don't think I've ever even gone to the channel.
I've gone
Um,
there, yeah, and
maybe
seen
I
some,
have. I just don't fucking remember. That's
but
like
yeah.
what I remember the most.
Yeah, like as far as style goes, back in the day, like my whole thing, or at least the way I felt about the content was more of like a mixed bag of it was a mixed bag because there was definitely some like strands of like greatness in there, but it was also like really long-winded. And in some ways you can kind of see that a bit in like modern pedantic, where it's kind of where I feel like, oh, just get to the fucking point, you get that feeling in there. But also like generally speaking, I think there's certain I she definitely has some ways of like putting things that I really do like. The thing, I guess, but my main reason for like bringing her up is more like just a criticism of the way things have kind of been going recently, which like for some reason she's gotten like really into like a lot of more, I guess, I don't want to. I know using this term is like a little bit like might put some people off SJW, but like but I'm just gonna like quote Digibro here, but like that's what they actually used to call themselves, and it's the most convenient like term to use. It just feels right, so I'm just gonna keep saying it now. If you don't like that, well, fuck
We'll
you.
call them social juice warriors.
Yep. But yeah, basically she's gotten like really into that kind of stuff, and I'm fine with it. I've watched YouTubers like that in the past, and I don't have anything that personal against them.
Yeah.
When they're not like pissing me off or anything like that, they're all right. The whole thing though is kind of how Pedantic's channel has kind of changed for because of that. Now she's making a bunch of videos that are like that are like it's like you're trying to like make some kind of connection between your hobby and your ideology or political agenda. It's that kind
Mhm.
of thing.
It's
And like,
like digging for the evidence that you want to find as opposed to
yeah,
kind of what's there.
yeah, like one of our newest videos is about like Gridman, and it's basically the I haven't seen it, but the title basically tells me everything I kind of need to know, and it's the reason why I haven't watched it. And it's basically saying the point of the video is it's trying to prove, or at least this is what I can infer from the title, is it's trying to prove that Rika and fucking God, like I'm blanking on Gridman right now, but
What
basically,
is it? What are you saying? Another character?
fuck, I'm fucking blanking right now. It's kind of crappy, but basically, it's basically saying like the two female leads
Yeah, Rike
of
and Akane. That's what
yeah,
you're saying.
Rike
Yeah.
and Akane, yeah, fuck. Thank you for
You
like
that was your
reminding.
favorite girl too. What are you
Yeah,
doing?
like I fucking like I blanked out. Maybe it's because I slept really weird today. I don't know what it is, but yeah, Rika and Akane or like had like some kind of like there's this Yuri implication on their relationship or whatever, and I'm
Oh,
like
okay, yeah,
I did not get that at all. All I got was like, oh, they're
yeah.
friendship stuff, right?
Hmm.
I'm not crazy here, Nick, right?
No, like I don't think there was anything sexual between the
Yeah,
two.
exactly what I'm
I think
thinking.
there might have been something that led into kind of like very close friends to like at the very least you could say maybe like a deep connection, but I wouldn't say
Yeah.
anything sexual.
Yeah, same. My thoughts exactly. Like I didn't think there was anything overtly sexual about the relationship, but like the video apparently was setting out to like prove or show that that was the case, and I was off put by the idea of that because it seemed more like the whole idea of like having an idea or a conclusion and then looking for evidence to prove that, like
Yeah,
confirmation bias. There's another video where it's like about traps and stuff, and is basically trying to say the trap is a like trans slur, and I don't agree with that. And there's people who have done an excellent job of like disprove of like countering that idea. And it's you have this coming out. There's another one about like sexism in the military. You get the point I'm trying to make here, Nick, right?
hmm
That it's like that ever since transitioning, becoming transgendered, like a lot of our content has just been about issues within that like realm, that spectrum.
yeah,
And I find that like that can be very alienating and off-putting to
yeah,
like some people, where it's like I want to just see like an informative video about something interesting you found. Like probably the one that's like least that's like the one that I care about like the least as far as that aspect that I think is like an all right video was the one about sexism in the military, because that show actually did like tackle like ideas of gender bias and like stereotypes and shit like that,
yeah,
right? So I can definitely see like where she's coming from with that show. But then there's stuff like the whole like trap thing and all that, and where it's just like now it's like now you're kind of stretching it. And
yeah. It sounds like to me, from somebody who's outside of this, of her content and stuff, that it seems like she found this interest in making videos about this subject and wants to make them and go like search into them and like kind of bring them to light. But it's like a mixture between like legit conversations to have in shows that do have those elements and just talking about popular relevant things and trying to really find something to pull at. And it's kind of
Yeah.
that weird mesh, and it doesn't work a lot of the times, or
Yeah.
depending on what it is.
Yeah, like, and my opinion is not one of like, I hate this, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not like, that's not really like the point. It's just kind of, I feel like I want to see her kind of not, reach so hard for this kind of stuff, and instead focus on making like a more wide, a more like less
Diverse.
focused, more diverse in terms of ideas. I'm not saying like these videos should never exist or anything. I'm just saying like the fact that it's just been like rapid fire one after another is kind of concerning.
It makes
to
it
me.
seem like she just has like agenda, Phil, as opposed to like actually legit wanting to talk about the topic. It seems like that's all she wants to talk about, which can come off as a negative and forcing your thoughts onto somebody, which even if that's not what you're trying to do, when you do it in a kind of way as such, it does come off that way. And nobody wants to be force-fed an opinion by somebody else.
Yep. Exactly. Like, that's basically all I had to really say about like pedantic. I honestly like hope like things kind of like change, and that she's not like running around on crusades on Twitter and doing all this like wacky shit. Like
our society has enough witch hunts already. We don't need more.
Yep. Let's move on to somebody else.
All right.
Who else? Who shall now face the judgment of Jade the Scribe? What anime YouTuber shall be within my crosshairs? Who shall I, send up to the fucking gallows? Let's think. Oh yeah, Mother's Basement.
Oh, you mean Game Theory? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, a joke. Oh, that burn. Bro, like in a
I
sense,
doubt anybody's heard that joke before. And here I am giving giga shit for this. Oh my God.
Kind of is. Oh, dude, like legit. I can't even like that joke is so fucking real. Because like geez, like in a way Digibro said a lot of what of like in a very like in a very like tight like freewheeling way. He said a lot of what I think on this topic, so
I saw he made a video on him recently, but I didn't watch it. You're talking about?
Yeah, like the video was how should I say?
Was it very recent is what I'm asking.
Yeah, it was pretty recent.
Okay, so it's the one I saw he uploaded, but I didn't watch. Gotcha.
Yeah, like the deal with it, like what he said and what I kind of agree with is that a lot of this is like a tight summary of what he said, but basically a lot of Mother's Basement's content kind of feels mass produced, and like a lot of them are like it's that game theory, feeling of artificialness to it, where it doesn't feel like a lot of creative spirit went into it, where like there's all of his videos are at least like 18 minutes or something, and like they're basically designed to maximize ad revenue, but while at the same time also being like very opinionated. And it's not to say like he doesn't have some insightful opinions in his videos, or he doesn't say anything that's that can't I
think his look into OP video is pretty interesting, because he really does, because nobody does that a lot of the times, like analyzing
Digibro also said that too,
and pulling like this kind of meaning and themes behind stuff in openings. I was like, that's cool. But
yeah, definitely. But like a lot of it is basically, a lot of his videos now are basically, oh, what's new?
Oh god, like that's all of his content these
Yeah,
days.
like
It's
everything.
either tops, like top this show, or a current airing popular show.
Yeah, like yeah, the popular show or what he thinks about it, and it's got to be at least 18 minutes. Got to
Mm-hmm.
maximize that watch time. And like I never watch his videos anymore just because like I feel like it would be, not only would it be such like an investment of my time that I don't want to, but I also feel like if I do watch his videos, I wouldn't come away with anything that I didn't, that I wouldn't have gotten on my own if I just went out and watched the show. Like
Mm-hmm.
if instead of like watching a video that may or may not spoil the show for me, or or just has like, or just 18 minutes of of whatever content, either being about the thematic idea, maybe a thematic idea of a show, but it presented in a very like stretched out, not that concise way, or like just being boring, right? Like that's basically what I'm trying to say here. Is that I find Mother's Basement's content to be boring, predictable. He has this like he has this air of, I want to say he has this air of just either being he can be very distant feeling. I don't know how to describe it. It's very much like it's the opposite of some anime YouTubers where, yeah, if I had to describe, it's like the far end of like of a spectrum where I put like so you have some people like Chibi reviews where like a lot of their videos feel very personal, and it feels like
Mm-hmm.
he's talking to you in his room about, like it's like your friend talking to you in his room about like whatever, or about the latest chapter of a manga or whatever. Whereas I don't know, there's something about Mother's Basement's content that feels so highly
Artificial.
impersonal, yeah, artificial, and the artificialness makes it feel distant.
Yeah. I think
And
that's like one of the biggest examples to me is like this level of I have the opinion of all opinions, and like this video is like the truth of this scene, like everything I'm saying here is what it means. And
ah
like, and that's what I get from him nowadays, is kind of this feeling of and it's not like it's because this is just his personality, but I feel like this is how the videos are made to be, is to give the opinion and be the factual kind of like, this is the opinion, but it's tried to being factual when it's still his own personal interpretation and
oh
opinion.
yeah, that's a big problem with anime YouTube in general, though. Like
Mm-hmm.
Mother's Basement is like a big offender in that sense, where like a lot of his videos can come off as being like very much like, I'm telling you that this is the way it is, bro, that kind of
Yeah.
attitude.
And what else was I gonna say? Like, well, a lot of the things I was gonna say was just kind of how content feels very artificially made purely for money, made purely for views,
Yeah.
made purely to be in the top grossing, top like trending. Um, and it lacks, like, as you said, and as I kind of agreed, is like this personality, this kind of like video. Like you look at his thumbnails and it's all put together in a way to be appealing to the eye and to kind of like fit this,
Yeah.
come to this video. Like this is the kind of video you always see on your right bar in the trending, and this is what you should watch in the recommended. It's not something you watch naturally because you're like, ooh, I want to hear his opinion on this. It's just like, oh, it's one of those videos, like this is one of those popular videos. Um,
Yeah.
and which is weird. I don't really know how much like he tries to make them like this, or he really wants to, like, if, because I bet there's some videos in there that are actually a lot more personal and open than they seem to be, but it's just that like most of them come off this way, that it's just like
Yeah,
you see one, you think you see all of them, and you expect the kind of
exactly.
content that he makes. Um, and yeah, and there's a lot of times where it's just like he'll like a show that might be a little bit less talked about, and he's like, "This is the best show." Like, "Oh my god, this is the best show, man!" Like, you're not watching this, like you're dumb or something like that.
Oh man, he said some stuff that has actually like triggered me in some things where it's like it was like in his Black Clover review, which you probably think I'd be like super hard because I've said some negative stuff about Black Clover, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But the way he talked about the show, and I guess it was because it was okay. Everybody gave the green light because Black Clover. It was during the time where everybody was shitting on Black Clover.
Yeah.
Like he basically like went down, and I remember him saying that like, oh, if you are still watching this show past this episode, then you literally must be an idiot because the show thinks that. It said something along those lines, along the lines of that. And I
Yeah.
remember just being taken aback by it because I'm like, dude, like, you really gonna say that?
Uh-huh.
Part of it is just me being butthurt because I did watch past that mainly for like research and shit because I was gonna make my own video on it and
Yeah.
whatever. But like even then, like, can you imagine somebody who really liked the show so coming in and
It
watching
just
that and
comes off
be
as kind of like arrogance, like you watch this trash because you're an idiot, but
yeah,
it's
like
just like as long as you accept that, that's fine. And
yeah,
yeah.
and or he'll say stuff like like that one time there in the opening of the show where he's talking about how, oh yeah, everybody in this world is an asshole. It makes you want to like because in the opening of Black Clover there's the whole demon that's like destroying a town is and it's like, oh yeah, look at these people, they're assholes, they're mean to people who don't have magic. Makes you want to actually root for that monster
Hmm.
destroying the town. And I'm just like, not really. Because this is less of an actual like this is less of a criticism of him personally and more of a criticism of some of the wacky shit he says. Well, technically it is a criticism of him,
Yeah,
but
he
like
says that. Yeah.
he'll say some wacky ass shit like that where you're just like, dude.
Hmm.
And I guess and it's like what Digibro said in his video about him. It's like where sometimes his personality will kind of come through, but it's always the most negative aspects of his personality. And like just like Digibro said, like if he people would actually like him more if he got rid of like that, if he had even less personality, because it's just like, again, like me and you said a second ago, where his videos lack personality, but there's still that pinch of like personality in there, and
Hmm.
the actual personality that comes through is like one of just arrogance and kind of like snarky douchiness.
Hmm.
So people would probably like him even more if he had less personality in his
Yeah.
videos.
He's also like I feel like he's also a guy who's related about everything he does. And even if it's something that seems like it's a negative, he like makes a profit off of it. Like a perfect example for me is he and this is also an example of him just kind of following the hype and positivity and current anime trend. And like an example of this is when I'm talking about this anime again. I did not expect to talk about it so much, but Darling in the Franxx is when that started airing. Like the first couple episodes came out, and he was saying how Darling in the Franxx made this like great build up into this world. And he's just like,
Ah,
it establishes the world
I
so
know what
well.
you're talking about.
He made his video about how Darling the Franks is
Yeah.
like amazing thing. I didn't watch all of it, but I saw some of it, and that's what it looked like. And from the thumbnail, that's what it was trying to perceive, this kind of idea. And then lo and behold, the show pans out, and it turns into the mess it does. And then he makes an episode later on in his channel where he's just like where it went wrong and what happened to it. And so it's like that capitalization of like, sure, I was positive at first, but now I realize like everybody's saying like it's negative and I'm on that train, so I'm gonna be like, let me profit off of it and tell you why you think that's the way. And it's just like, yeah, it just comes
like
off as
riding
weird.
the tide of how people are currently feeling.
Or when I see him tweet about stuff, like you can see the gears in his head moving when he's just like, ooh, I'm talking about this. Let me make a video on it. Like I'm gonna make a video on this to capitalize on my conversations. Like he'll make a meme or something, like, and people will follow it, and then he wants to make a video talking about this meme, and it's just like, do you have to make money about everything you do? And yeah, that's like, he's like this economic machine that just wants to capitalize money and figure out the algorithm like game theory and just make content that fits perfectly with what people want, like reaching the biggest audience possible in the anime communities. Yeah. Like he wants to be that guy. He kind of gets positioned to it and like Crunchyroll Expos where he's going there and he's speaking for the anime community in the suit. He's like the spokesman of anime YouTube, and yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember again, I keep bringing Digibro up, but like I guess because the
It's
two
okay,
have
you
such
secretly love him.
secretly love maybe. But like for because I guess it's just because like so much of what I've heard about Mother's Basement like behind closed doors, like the outside of his videos, is from fucking Digibro. So I remember him just talking about like him meeting Miles and Mother's Basement at an anime expo, I believe, and just talking about how the two of them scheming together and shit like that. And that just made me go, well, yeah, I feel like I can see that from fucking I can see that from Mother's Basement, because it's fucking Mother's Basement. It's what he does, and he kind of plays it up, but at the same time, like people still kind of get tired of it.
Yeah, like that, and this was going back to what I was talking to you earlier. Like for someone like me, I'm somebody who's very much more into people that are personal with their with their content, that put themselves in there and show through their content their personality and their energy into it. And when I look at his videos, I just think of, like, as he always says, like, he tries to own up to it as a joke, but commercial sellout, like trying to be the commercialized, like, this is the end all be all channel for YouTube anime, and he wants to be that centerpiece in history of, this is YouTube anime, I'm the headpiece here, watch my content to get the good analytical content. And even though he'll be jokey about it in some ways, when you look at his content, it says otherwise, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's that weird disconnect where it's like you can't get a good reading on how honest he is about just his content and how he'll like expose himself to the world or whatever. So
I absolutely agree with that, man.
And I like to give the benefit of the doubt that he's not completely like that. Like, he does have actual interest and doesn't want to just be commercial, sell out of everything. Because as I said, like, I think his best stuff is when he actually makes stuff that seem from his heart, like, and like doing something that people haven't done and just kind of having fun with it, such as those OP videos.
Yeah.
Like I feel like he never does those anymore, and if he does, it's usually just on stuff that's like popular, not like it's not like him bringing up something that's like not as just talked about and he just wants to kind of show it off. It's only stuff that like has meaning to profit now.
Yeah,
So
because if you wanna, profit on YouTube, you gotta fucking make content on stuff people are talking about now.
mm-hmm.
It's probably like my biggest criticism of YouTube at the moment is just the overemphasis on the current content and like on what is current and what is new. And I guess this is just a byproduct of trying to get like social media stuff like
Yeah.
to like trying to like the streamlining of social media and just everything trying to get to like the maximum degree of
Here
like
and now importance.
you know
That
yeah
we have
here
to be like we have to do talk about things that are going on right now, and so we can like get that biggest piece of like the soapbox. I'll use that analogy. Like they want to grab the soapbox and be like, "I'm on top for right now," and then it goes to the next topic, and from then on there.
yep. Okay, might do like maybe should we end here or should we do one more?
Well, we haven't
And
talked about one of the other big grandpappy
yeah, I was gonna like I was gonna ask you who you want to talk about, Nick.
because it's I think so. Yeah, what I'm talking about is, and honestly, even though I don't watch his stuff much these days, he's one of the people I'm like the least critical on because I feel like he still just kind of does stuff because he likes it and because he kind of he's just kind of always done it and he just kind of makes videos like stuff and he kind of like keeps it traditional, I get, but he still does new spins on things. But yeah, what do you think?
We talking about Arcada like if you're talking about him because I think you cut out when you said his
Oh,
name.
did I cut out? Can you hear
Yeah,
me
like
now?
for a second, like
Oh,
as
yeah,
you
yeah,
said
yeah.
his
I was about to say Arcada.
okay, so basically with him I have a weird relationship with him because I used to watch him like a lot when I was like younger, but
Mhm.
like I've kind of like fallen off of his content. But for the most part, I don't really have an issue with him, right?
Yeah.
Like as far as me just thinking, I guess I do think his like rating style for like anime is a bit like antiquated at this point, but there's nothing really that like
I feel like it's pretty much not important. Like he just
yeah,
kind of he does it because that's kind of what's typical, which is why he got rid of the whole letter, like not letter but numbering. He got rid of
yeah,
that because it makes it seem like he puts things high up above, but really the way he tries to make it come off is it's very much more like his own feelings on watching it, but he still tries to at least give some analytical look into maybe why it
yeah.
is as it is, but it's not like he's like deep analytical. It's just kind of like surface level. Let's kind of just dig this up and let's do a basic conversation talk about different shows.
Yeah. And I think that's fine. Like that's probably like I mentioned earlier kind of about like anime, like the analytical side of anime YouTube and how they kind of feel the need to like make everybody be this one type of thing, this one type of content, and if it isn't like that you kind of get like laughed off the stage, so to speak,
Yeah.
or people don't take your content as seriously or won't give it that much of a chance because of your style, or you're not going hardcore balls deep into an anime. um but yeah, I definitely think, you know, that can be that, like that style of like analysis light can be a strength, because it doesn't, like it leaves room for other means or other tactics of exploring anime that aren't just about the more academic, you know, academic analytical ways that have kind of come to dominate YouTube now,
Mm-hmm.
because you see them fucking everywhere. And in a way, I remember when I was the most into anime YouTube was when, like, Arcada and like a lot of the old, grandpappies, as you put it, old grandpappies were like on top, and like everybody kind of knew about, everybody was kind of into their content and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Like that was when I was the most into like anime YouTube, and I think there is something to that the spirit of what that was back then, which is just, which is just like, oh, you're a nerd on the fucking internet, just, talking about whatever. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's definitely something that the analyst the but the analytical side of anime YouTube is kind of missing, in my opinion, which is one of the reasons why I make why I make my content the way I make it, because what I enjoy is just hearing fucking people talk about the things that make them, smile and, do whatever,
Yeah.
whatever, right? What they fucking enjoy. And, just the human aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that when you get more to like, people, when you get more to like the older anime YouTubers, you get kind of a lot closer to that, kind of like a middle ground between like the personal and the more academic approach.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like Arcada, he's all right, even though I don't watch him like that anymore.
Is
I
it?
think
Yeah, but is there like a negative reason watching him anymore? Or is it just because he just kind of like,
no, there's no real negative. Kind of fell off of his
yeah? I mean,
content.
that's like, I feel like, but that kind of stands by my opinion of him. Is it's like, if you don't end up watching him, it's usually not because you watch his videos and you're just like, oh, this is like clearly made to be, made for money or something. Or you're not watching him and being like, wow, he's just an asshole. No, you don't watch him because you're just like, I'm busy with other stuff, or like, I don't feel like watching that review because I haven't seen that show or something.
Yeah.
And like, to me, he's just kind of like that, like, I don't know how, like, if it's weird to put it that way, but he's just like that kind of harmless dude that's there, that just kind of talks, and he's been here for a while, and everybody's just kind of like acknowledges him. He's just kind of nice to him, and it's just like, he's just that guy that's there. And
Yeah.
um,
You certainly have a soft spot for Arcada,
yeah,
Nick.
I don't know why, which is funny because it's like, again, I don't watch his stuff a lot, but I don't know, maybe it's because like some of the videos I do watch, and if I do watch, it's funny, like usually I won't go back and watch stuff of the people I've kind of fallen out with, but if I've watched a show and I know he's reviewed it before, sometimes I'm just curious and I'll go back to see it and I'll be like, oh, okay, so that's what his opinion might have looked, which I don't do with most people these days.
Mm.
And like, I remember one of the biggest like things I bonded with him originally was over the Harubi stuff, because he was like one of the few people I could find back when I watched Haruhi that had a lot of videos on it. And I was just like, oh, dude, like he has these opinions, and I agreed with a lot of them, and I found it interesting. And like having that sort of initial connection, especially because I watched that stuff when I was like getting into anime at the time back in
Ah.
2014. So Like he's probably one of the longest running anime YouTubers I'm watching, which makes sense because he's been
Definitely.
around for so long.
So fucking long. That's like back in like YouTube's prehistoric era.
Yeah, but
Oh
that's what I
man.
think is interesting. Is I find him the kind of guy that nobody really hates on. Like he's, I don't see anybody that's
Yeah,
just like
that's yeah, now
fuck
that you
that
mention
guy,
it.
fuck him. Like nobody's like that.
Now that you mention it, yeah. He's very much like he's kind of just he keeps out of trouble, which is good. It's just always good for like any YouTuber, and I feel like that's the case for a lot of like old AniTubers, older AniTubers, is they keep the fuck out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can't say that for a lot of newer guys now. A lot of newer guys, they like fucking. Some of them will fucking start fights on purpose just because
Yeah.
it'll help their YouTube career. Which I personally, I don't want to fucking do that. Probably the only thing that would ever cause this is if like randomly out of fucking nowhere this one video does like really well, which I highly doubt it will. But if that ever does happen, like
Well, you just
you
gotta
know,
put like, oh my god, drama, social experiment gone description and titles of this video, and then we'll get like shitloads of views. Um, and put some like anime boobies in the thumbnail, and
yeah, yeah, make it the
there you
most
go.
clickbait shit ever. uh, fuck. Man, but even if that did happen, they probably wouldn't like say anything because
No.
I'm just some dude.
Yeah.
Like it's like who cares? But yeah, basically, yeah, that's basically
I
all
wanted to
my
end it
thoughts
on
on
something a
Arcana.
bit more positive, so that's why I was like,
I got you. I
yeah.
understand. Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, this is basically the what our thoughts on the anime community are. Sort of, kind of, maybe. Kind of went
It's
all the
like
fuck over the place.
80% anime YouTube community, and then like the rest of it is just a mishmash of all sorts of other
Yeah,
offshoots.
other kinds of, I guess,
Like
anime.
15% anime community history and our involvement, and then 5% Godzilla, fucking, what were some of the other shit? Visual novel,
Yeah,
like,
stuff,
tangents.
and then like a good fucking 80% YouTube, AniTube nonsense. But yeah,
And 50% of that was you bringing up Digibro.
yeah, yeah. Basically. Okay, I'm gonna bring this shit to an end. Whoop. Yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the however long this is. I feel like it's long as shit.
Yeah, it's gonna be fucking long as fuck, man.
Poser.
Like, it's gonna be absurd.